In this Case Management Hub software tutorial, you'll learn how you can track time, cost, and more using a powerful tracking feature. Tracking in the Case Management Hub app is an expansion of time tracking in our legacy system. First, I'll show you the outputs that come from tracking, which will help you understand why you'll want to use it and all the different ways that you can. Then I'll show you where the inputs go for tracking. So let's go to tracking in the sidebar. Here on the tracking page, I can track by time, cost, or other. Other simply means an iteration of something. For example, how many iPads might have been given out at a charity function. If I want to filter one or the other, I can simply use the radio buttons. Now I'm looking at only time. Now I'm looking at entries with only cost. One thing that we find when working with organizations looking for nonprofit Case Management Hub software is that they like to see these tracking entries in multiple ways. So the Views menu allows you to see your data how you like. I can see it by client, by staff, or by program. And for each of these, I'll have a summary or a detailed view. For example, here by default, we're looking at the client summary view, meaning that here I'll see all my clients. And for each client, I'll see a summary that shows all the entries they have. This client has 5 tracking entries. Now, what if I want to see the detail of every single entry? Then I can simply go to Detailed. And if I want to see for that specific client, I can easily filter. That's how quick and easy it is to find your different tracking entries, whether it's cost or time or something else. Notice that you can also see your tracking entries by staff. Again, summary or detailed. This is one of the best case management tools to allow you to keep an overview on the organization, whether it's where staff or volunteers are devoting their time or the types of costs involved with the programs you're providing. You can track all that and see it here on the tracking page, and any view is exportable to Excel. Program is the same. I can see a summary or a detailed view by program of all my tracking entries. And this last view, Staff Matrix, is very handy if you're keeping up with staff time and you need to export time for payroll or something else. You'll have a cross-section of staff, and you can look at it by activity, or you can look at it by program. So let's look at a couple of use cases. One I just talked about. If you need to track time for payroll, you can have staff use the tracking feature and then come to this staff matrix view on the tracking table to export it all. Another use case might be keeping up with a budget that a client has been given. Let's go back to client details. Say that you're tracking different expenses a client has or different grants that you've provided to the client for things like utilities. Once those cost tracking entries are entered, you can do things like filter on tags or activity names. Let's say I need to look at utility assistance. Now I'll see all the entries related to utility assistance. I can also filter them down by a specific client. And let's say I want to filter even more. I want to see all the water bill entries. Now I can filter on a tag that I set up for water bill. This allows you to get very specific data that you may need to report on for a grant or other sponsorship reporting. Before we go into where you put in the tracking entries, let's take a look at the settings for time. Up here on the tracking table, you'll have a settings gear. This allows you to set how you're tracking time for the entire organization. The default will be in hours and minutes. You can also choose the hours, minutes, seconds. If you track in quarter intervals by hours and minutes, you can choose that as well. You can also choose one of the two decimal time options, standard decimal or decimal in quarter intervals. So let's see exactly what that means. First, I'm going to go to add a time tracking entry. I'll come back to this in a moment after we look at this specific thing. Here I can see my timer. If I go to manual, I can see that I'm in the standard hours and minutes setting. But what if my organization prefers decimal time and quarter intervals? An admin can come and set this up, simply selecting decimal quarter intervals. Now, any of my existing time entries will be rounded either up or down to fit the new organization standard. Now, when I go to add a time entry, I'll have the hours, of course, but now I will have the decimal intervals. And this will be the decimal quarters. You'll want to decide as an organization which setting you'd like to do and then set it once for the entire organization. I'll go ahead and set this back to the default of hours and minutes. Now you'll see all my entries have been changed back to the original hours and minutes. They're no longer rounded. Okay, next we'll take a look at the inputs for these entries and how you put them into the system. You can add a tracking entry in a few different places. One is right here on the tracking page. Simply add entry, or you can also click the plus button. And then you can choose time, cost, or other, but really you could track time, cost, and other in the same entry. The second way that's commonly used is inside a note. This saves you time if you're creating a case note for a client. You can add tracking at the same time. So let's take a look at that. Now you can review the notes tutorial to see the different places you can create a note. You can create them from inside a client profile on the Notes widget. You can also create them here on the main dashboard. So here I'm adding my case note, and you'll see this tracking bar. If I want to add a tracking entry at the same time I add a case note, I can simply click. Here I'm showing I want to add a time entry. Now let's talk about activity name. If you're in a note, it'll default to the note activity name. But you may want something more meaningful. You can customize the types of activity names you use. You can also choose to add them to a program or not. If you don't add them to a program, then you will not see any of the program names. So here you can see inside personal therapy, we have two different activity names. In substance abuse rehabilitation, we have one activity name. You can add more than one activity to an entry. If you're tracking time, you can add the time here. You can also choose to add this entry to a program. Notice this entire area is the tracking entry. Tags give you that additional way to drill down into information so you can filter. Say I want to filter on a specific type of home visit. Let's add a new tag. You can choose to add a color if you like. Now, what if I also want to associate cost? I can simply check the cost box, and then I'll be able to add a cost entry as well. I can finish up my note and hit save, and now I've added both the note and the tracking entry. Let's go take a look. And here's that brand new entry we just made. If I go to Notes, I'll also see the note entry here, and I'll see the tracking information. So let's take a look at the widget on the client profile. You can look at the client profile tutorial for more information on this page. Here you'll see one of the widgets is for tracking, and I'm going to see the different tracking entries listed here. I can also add a tracking entry from this page. You'll see I have the same pop-up I saw on the tracking page. Now there's one more thing I want to show you. And it has to do with activity name and tag, and specifically if you're coming from the legacy Case Management Hub system. Let me go to time tracking in the old case management tool. You'll see that we had two categories, type of interaction and reason for interaction. To simplify and streamline things for you, these were updated. Type of interaction is now called activity. And if you haven't guessed already, reason for interaction is now tag. So this simplifies your view, but it also lets you know if you've migrated where to find your customized options. One last tip is here when you're creating a time entry, you can use a timer, or you can choose manual time, which we've done before, or you can choose a time range. Tracking is a powerful feature in any Best Case Management Hub software. It gives you the ability to track nearly anything you like related to time, cost, or just about anything else.